It grabs you out of nowhere. One moment you are eating, or laughing, or simply sitting there breathing the way you have breathed your whole life without a single thought, and then, with no warning at all, your chest jerks. A sharp little catch snatches the breath halfway down and cuts it clean off with a small sound you did not make on purpose and could not have made on purpose if you tried. And then a few seconds later, before you have even settled, before you have caught up, again and again, on its own clock, at its own steady pace, answering to nothing you want. And so you fight it the way everyone fights it. You hold your breath and count. You gulp cold water from the wrong side of the cup. You get someone to frighten you. You swallow a spoon of dry sugar. You pull hard on your own tongue. You try every strange little trick anyone ever swore would work. And still, it comes. It will not be reasoned with, and it will not be hurried, until at some moment of its own choosing and never yours, it simply stops, as suddenly and for as little reason as it began. And it did nothing. It hurt nothing, warned of nothing, fixed nothing. It is, when you truly stop and look, the single most pointless thing your whole body knows how to do. And it is not just you. It is every human who has ever lived. The strongest person you know has stood in a quiet room jerking and hicking and unable to stop. Every child has had a fit of them so long it turned to laughing and then to tears. But here is the first strange thing, the thing that should stop you cold. The ones who hiccup the most are not the grown, not the old. It is the very smallest. A newborn babe hiccups far more than you do, in long, gentle fits, day after day. And smaller still, a baby not yet even born, curled and floating in the dark before its first breath of air, hiccups in there too, over and over, where there is no food to catch it and no air to swallow wrong and no reason under the sky for it to be happening at all. I am Og, and the fire is warm tonight, and I want to sit with you over something you have done 1,000 times and never once thought to wonder about. This small, silly catch in your chest that seizes you out of nowhere and will not let go. You think it is nothing, a glitch. A hiccup, we even say, when we mean a small, pointless error in a thing, a stutter, a fault, a bit of the machine misfiring for no reason. And I am here to tell you tonight that you have it backwards, that this is not a fault in the machine at all. It is one of the oldest, truest pieces of the machine there is, still turning inside you, long after the world it was built for sank beneath the water and was gone. Because think how strange it is truly once you stop. Nature is careful. Nature does not keep things that cost and do nothing. Every reflex your body keeps, it keeps because somewhere, sometime, it earned its place. You blink to guard the eye, you cough to clear the throat, you gag to keep the poison out. Each one does a plain job you can name, but the hiccup guards nothing, clears nothing, keeps nothing out. It just seizes you and shakes you and lets you go. So why would a careful nature build a reflex that does absolutely nothing for you, and then keep it in every human who has ever lived, and keep it strongest of all in the unborn? The only answer that makes any sense is a strange and wonderful one. It does nothing for you now, but it did something once for something that was not quite yet you. Here is the turn, and it is a big one, so let me say it plainly before I show you how we know it. A hiccup is a fossil, not a fossil in stone, not a bone in the ground, but a fossil all the same, a living one, buried in the wiring of your own body. It is an old, old motion, a reflex, kept almost perfectly whole from creatures that lived and breathed hundreds of millions of years before you, and wired so deep into the oldest floor of your brain that you cannot reach it, cannot stop it, cannot unlearn it. And it is not one fossil, but two ancient reflexes braided together and misfiring, both of them useless to the person you are now, both of them precious to the things you came from. One belongs to a creature in the water, breathing through gills, and one belongs to a tiny nursing mammal pulling milk. Your hiccup is the ghost of them both, twitching in the dark of your brainstem, running a reflex for a body you no longer have. This is a real puzzle, and clever people wrestled with it for a long time. Every other reflex gave up its secret easily because you could see the job it did, but the hiccup would not. Careful thinkers looked and could point to nothing it does for a grown human that is worth the trouble of keeping it. And a thing with no use now, clung to hardest in the very young, is the fingerprint of something left over. So when a group of them truly followed that thread, the answer they pulled up was older than anyone had guessed. To find the use of your hiccup, they had to stop looking at you and look instead at a fish. Start with the first clue, and it is hidden in the strangest piece of plumbing in your whole body. The muscle that drives your hiccup and drives every breath you take is the diaphragm, the great flat sheet of muscle stretched across the bottom of your chest. It pulls down, your lungs fill, you breathe. Simple, now that muscle needs a nerve to command it, a cord running from your brain down to the muscle to tell it when to pull. And you would think, being sensible, that the nerve would run the short way. The diaphragm sits low, deep in your trunk. The nerve should come off the spine right there beside it, a short, simple reach. It does not. The nerve that runs your diaphragm, the phrenic nerve, comes off your spine all the way up high in your neck, up near where your head sits, and then it runs all the way back down, the whole long length of your chest, past your heart, to reach a muscle that sits far below where it started. It is an absurd detour. It is like running a cord from the attic down through the whole house to switch on a lamp in the cellar when the switch could have sat on the cellar wall. No one sane would wire it that way. So why is it wired that way? Because it was not built for the body you have. Run the tape back, far back to the water. In the fish we came from, the muscles that worked the breathing gills sat high up, near the head, near the gills themselves, right where that nerve comes off. The wiring made perfect sense there. It was a short reach to a thing close by. But then across an unimaginable stretch of time, as those creatures crept out of the water and changed again, the breathing muscle drifted down and down the body, migrating from the neck to the deep chest, taking its ground into a new shape. And the nerve, already wired, simply stretched to follow it, paying out more and more cord, never once starting over. Your absurd long nerve is a frozen record of that journey. It runs the way it runs because it is still, in its bones, the wiring of a gill. Now the second clue, and this is the one that turns the whole thing from a curiosity into a ghost you can watch with your own eyes. Because it is not just the wiring that came from the water, it is the motion itself. Think of a creature caught between two worlds, a young amphibian, a tadpole, half in the old life and half in the new. It has small gills and it breathes by working them, and the way it works them is a very particular little motion, a reflex all its own. It pulls water into its mouth by drawing down, the very same kind of downward pull your diaphragm makes. And then at the top of that pull, it must do something crucial. It must snap shut a small gate at the top of its throat, quick and hard, so that the water it just drew in is pushed sideways out over the gills where the breathing happens and is not sent down into the delicate lungs where water would be a disaster. Pull the water in, snap the gate shut, push it over the gills, pull, snap, push. That is how a thing between water and air keeps breathing without drowning itself. A sharp inward pull and then a hard, fast closing of the gate at the throat. Now say that back, but about yourself. A hiccup is a sudden sharp downward pull of the diaphragm, exactly like an inward breath, snatched and fast. And then a heartbeat later, the gate at the top of your throat, the glottis, the very same kind of gate, snaps hard shut. And that snap of the gate on the rushing air is the sound. That is the hic. It is not a random spasm. It is a precise little sequence, a pull and a snap, the exact same pull and snap the tadpole makes to run water over its gills. Your hiccup is that ancient breathing motion, run whole, in a body that has no gills for the water to flow over and no water to flow. The old motion fires, the gate snaps, but there is nothing there anymore for it to be doing. So all that is left is the sound, and the jerk, and you bent over your cup, wondering what on earth is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Something that was never you is briefly breathing through gills you do not have. This is not just a pretty story I am spinning by the fire. Careful people laid it out plainly, some 20 years and more ago now, in a proper study of the thing. They took the whole shape of the hiccup, the exact muscles that fire, the exact order they fire in, the sharp pull and the hard snap of the gate, and they set it side by side with the breathing motion of gilled creatures, and with the wiring we just walked through, the high nerve, the long detour, and they found the match too close to be chance. Their reading was that the hiccup is a conserved motor pattern, which is a careful way of saying an old motion kept nearly whole, a relic, a reflex that made plain sense in an ancestor that breathed through gills, carried forward, unused and misfiring into you. The wiring is the record of the journey. The motion is the ghost of the destination, and that is as firm as this kind of knowing gets. But I told you there were 2 fossils braided in there, not one. And the second is why the very youngest hiccup the most, and why a baby hiccups in the dark before it has ever drawn a breath. For that, look at what a tiny mammal does more than anything else in its first days of life. It nurses. It pulls milk over and over, and pulling milk is its own kind of rhythmic reflex, its own pull. And there is a danger in it. When the milk is flowing and the little one is pulling it down, that same gate at the top of the throat, the glottis, must close at just the right beat, snapping shut to send the milk safely down the gullet and keep it from going the wrong way, down into the airway and the lungs. The very same gate, the very same snap. And here is the thought that has been carefully offered, that the hiccup, with its sharp pull and its hard closing of that exact gate, may be tangled up with the old nursing reflex, a rehearsal of the motion that keeps milk out of the lungs, run again and again in the womb and the newborn, where that skill will soon matter most. It fits the timing perfectly, this reflex that blazes brightest in the unborn and the newly born and quiets mostly, as we grow and the nursing days fall away behind us. 2 ancient jobs, the gill and the milk, both turning the very same gate at the very same throat, both wired into the oldest floor of your brain, and your hiccup is what you feel when that old wiring sparks in a body that has long since finished needing either one. And now you can understand the most maddening thing about a hiccup, the thing your grandmother's cures keep bumping into and cannot fix. Why can you not just stop it? Because the thing that makes it does not live in the clever thinking part of you, the part that decides and reasons and holds its breath. It lives far below, down in the brainstem, the oldest, deepest, most ancient floor of the whole building, the part you share with the fish and the amphibian, that ran breathing long before there was any thinking on top of it at all. Down there sit little pattern makers, small circuits that fire off a fixed sequence, over and over without asking you, the way your heart beats without asking you. Your thinking, deciding self is a new tenant on the top floor, and it does not have the keys to the cellar. That is why the tricks are hit and miss. Some may nudge the old pattern and jostle it loose now and then, but none of them truly command it, because you cannot command it. You are trying to switch off a machine that was running the breath of living things 100 million years before there was a you to want it off. It stops when the old circuit is good and ready, and not one moment before. Now let me stop and be honest with you, the way I always try to be, and mark plainly where the ground is solid, and where we are stepping out onto careful guesswork. That the nerve to your breathing muscle takes that absurd long detour from the neck, that is known, you can trace it in any body. That the hiccup is a precise pull and snap and not a random shudder, and that it closely matches the gill-breathing motion of water creatures, that is measured and laid out. That the very same gate at the throat guards the airway when milk flows, and that the unborn and the newborn hiccup far more than we do, that is plainly seen. That is firm ground. You can stand on it. But the deepest why, the whole story of the gill and the nursing reflex kept as relics and braided together into your hiccup, that is reasoning. That is the best and clearest sense a careful mind can make of all these clues, and the clues point that way hard, and me think it is very likely right. But no one climbed back down the long ladder of time to watch the first gill motion soften into the first hiccup, and no one can crack open a living reflex to be certain what it is truly for. So hold that part the way you would hold any fine, well-reasoned guess, firmly enough to think with, loosely enough to let go if better evidence ever comes. What the whole thing is deeply left over from is our best and most careful reading, a beautiful one, but a reading, not a stone with words carved into it. And all of this is a story about where your body came from, not a word of advice about your body. Chase no cure here, hold no fear here. This is old natural history told by a fire about the deep past you still carry. And now, while that settles, do one small thing for me. Think back to the last hiccup you had. The sudden catch, the sound you did not choose, the way it kept its own time no matter what you did. And then think of the last time you saw a small baby hiccup, that whole tiny body jumping with each one, gently over and over, untroubled, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Because to that baby, it very nearly is. That baby is closer to the old water than you are. That baby is running the ancient pattern the way it has run in the young of our kind, and the young of the kinds before us, since long before there was fire, or speech, or standing upright, or trees, or anything at all like a person to be embarrassed by a hiccup at a quiet table. Come back with me now to the fire, to a night long ago, because this is where the strange old thing stops being a curiosity and becomes simply a part of an evening, the way it has always been. The band is close around the low flames, fed and easy, and young Rue, who ate too fast and laughed too hard, is suddenly caught. Hic. His whole small frame jerks with it, and the others grin because they all know this. Hic. He holds his breath, cheeks puffed. Someone barks to startle him, and still, hic, it comes on its own good time, and he laughs helplessly between the catches, and no one is troubled because it always passes. And there, across the fire, a mother, Sella, holds her nursing babe, little Nen, warm against her. And as the milk flows and the small one pulls, its tiny body begins to jump too, softly, hic, hic, the same catch, the same sound, the very smallest of us running the very oldest of patterns in its very first days of life. And I sit by the flames and watch the young one and the babe hiccup on the same night, and me, I know what almost no one at that fire could know. That the catch in Rue's chest and the jump in the baby's tiny body are the same ancient motion, older than the fire, older than the band, older than standing on two legs. A ghost of the water, breathing in a room full of people who will never see the sea it came from. So let me bring it home now, because this is the part I truly want you to carry out of here with you. The next time it grabs you out of nowhere at the worst possible moment, and your chest jerks and the sound comes and you cannot stop it no matter what you try, I want you to stop for one breath and know what is really happening. That is not a glitch. That is not your body failing or breaking or misfiring for no reason. That is your body remembering. That is a reflex hundreds of millions of years old, older than the trees, older than any bone that ever walked on land, firing off inside you exactly as it was built to fire, in a creature that breathed through gills in a warm old sea before there was a single leaf on the whole of the earth. That absurd long nerve down your chest is the wiring of that creature. That sharp pull and hard snap is its breath. You are, for those few strange seconds, briefly running the breathing of a thing that lived before there were trees. So the next hiccup is not an annoyance. It is a tap on the shoulder. It is an amphibian that swam before the first forest, reaching up through 100 million years of your ancestors to you, and giving your wiring a small pull, just to remind you it is still there. It is not yours to command, because it was never really yours at all. It was here long before you, it is only passing through you, and it will be here, twitching in the young of our kind long after you. You are not a person who sometimes hiccups. You are the latest carrier of a fossil that hiccups, and it borrowed you for a while to keep itself alive. So here is what I would truly love to know, so tell me down in the comments. First, what is the strangest place or the worst moment a fit of hiccups ever caught you? And did you have some secret family cure you swore by? And now that you know what it really is, do you think that cure ever truly worked at all? And second, did you ever once in your whole life stop and wonder what a hiccup was for? Or is this the very first time you have looked straight at a thing your body has done 1,000 times and seen how deep and strange and old it really is? This is Ancient Us, and this whole channel is about the body you are sitting in right now, and all the old machinery still quietly running inside it, long after the world it was built for sank away. This little catch in your chest is one piece of it. There are 100 more, hiding in plain sight, in things you do every single day and never once think to question. So stay with me and come find the next one. Next time I want to show you why you get a sudden shiver up your spine, and the small hairs on your arms stand straight up, a whole rippling wave over skin that has almost no fur left for it to lift at all. Because no matter how new and dry and far from any warm old sea you feel tonight, the truth is the same as it ever was. Something old fired down in the deep floor of you, and your chest jerked and the gate at your throat snapped shut on a breath meant for gills you have not owned in 300 million years. You did not choose it. Nothing alive ever chose it, and your body still remembers.